Communication in New York City. Dr. Albert Mehrabian, currently Professor Emeritus of Psychology at the University of California at Los Angeles. Dr. Peter Sandman, founder of the Environmental Communication Research Program at Rutgers University, and now a private consultant. And Dr. Paul Slovic, a psychology professor at the University of Oregon. As I gained experience, I began to build on the theory and practice I had soaked up in those early years with lessons learned and skills and techniques developed through hands-on work with clients. My colleagues and I learned something new every time we help guide a client through a tough situation, and we constantly hone our strategy and approach. Eventually, I became enough of an expert that organizations began inviting me to speak about communicating in tough situations. I've traveled all over the country, sometimes training a handful of people and sometimes presenting to hundreds. All told, I would guess that my colleagues and I have worked with close to 10,000 people over the years. It was on one of these trips to the California Society of Association Executives annual conference in April 2010 in Long Beach, California, that I began the journey that culminated in this book. In this particular instance, the audience was small, about 30 people. I gave my standard presentation on breaking through and winning people over, though I didn't call it that yet, and I got a nice round of applause at the end. I went a little over my allotted time, as usual, and most of the attendees shuffled out the door quickly to get to their next sessions. As I was packing my bag, one woman approached me. That's not unusual. People often come up after I speak to ask quiet questions they didn't want the whole room to hear. "I just want to thank you for an informative presentation," she said, shaking my hand. "It was very helpful, and I was wondering, where can I buy your book?" The question startled me. I've given scores of similar presentations for thousands of people. She was the first who ever asked me about a book. "Well, thank you," I replied. "I'm glad you enjoyed it, but I'm afraid I haven't written a book." She smiled and shook my hand. "That's too bad," she said, turning away. "You should." On the long flight home to Washington, D.C., that afternoon, I decided she was right. My firm typically works with high-ranking corporate executives, government officials, and military officers, preparing them to deliver or react to bad news or to address false allegations and misinformation. But the strategies, skills, and techniques we teach apply in any tough situation when an audience, whether one person or many, is angry, worried, and suspicious of everything you say. And not just in professional settings. These lessons come in handy in personal relationships, too. I've often thought that just about everyone would benefit from our training. And after talking to the woman in Long Beach, I realized that a book would give me a way to reach more people than I ever could by crisscrossing the country and speaking to relatively small groups. So, as I was cruising at 35,000 feet above the Rocky Mountains, I took out my laptop and began to write. This book is intended to be a very practical, hands-on primer that anyone who faces an angry, worried, and suspicious audience can use to break through and win the audience over. You'll find a little theory, but mostly real-life examples based on my own work and that of my colleagues. I've changed names and other specifics because I want to respect my clients' confidentiality, but every story is real and true. I tell the people I train and the clients I serve that they can't expect to become experts in winning people over after just one training or strategy session. The same is true for this book. Even if you read it cover to cover, which I hope you will, you won't become an instant expert at winning people over in tough situations. That takes time, practice, and experience. But with careful preparation and proper application of the strategies, skills, and techniques discussed in the pages to follow, you'll be on your way. I hope you'll keep the book on a shelf in your office or at home and refer to it again and again. And to the anonymous attendee at the 2010 Cal SAE Annual Conference who launched me on this journey, I just want to say thank you. Introduction. I did not have sexual relations with that woman. President Bill Clinton. In February 2012.